Have you ever stopped to think about the objects you use every single day and just how old they really are? I'm not talking about that coffee mug from college or your favorite pair of jeans. I mean the things so deeply woven into our lives that we barely notice them anymore. The paper you write on, the wheels that carry you to work, even the concept of keeping time, these aren't modern luxuries. They're ancient marvels, inventions so brilliant that they've stood the test of millennia, surviving empires, revolutions, and the rise and fall of civilizations. And here's the wildest part. Many of them haven't changed all that much since they were first dreamed up. Picture this: thousands of years ago, someone, maybe a curious artisan, a frustrated laborer, or a visionary thinker, looked at a problem and solved it in a way so perfect that we're still using their solution today. No upgrades, no reinventions, just pure, timeless ingenuity. That's the power of human creativity, and it's all around us, hiding in plain sight. From the concrete beneath your feet to the compass guiding explorers across uncharted territory, these aren't just relics of the past. They're living proof that the ancient world was far more advanced than we often give it credit for. So today, we're going on a journey through time to uncover 25 of these extraordinary inventions, objects, and ideas so revolutionary that they never went out of style. Some will shock you, others might make you laugh at their simplicity, but all of them will leave you with a newfound appreciation for the minds that shaped our world long before smartphones or space travel. Because when you really stop to look, history isn't just something locked away in textbooks. It's right here in your hands, in your home, in the very fabric of your daily life. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll never look at a simple pair of scissors the same way again. Let's start with something so ordinary, you probably don't even think twice about it: paper. That sheet you scribble notes on, the book you read before bed, the receipt crumpled in your pocket. It all traces back to one groundbreaking moment in ancient China over 2,000 years ago. Before paper, people wrote on bamboo strips, silk, even clay tablets, materials that were either clunky, expensive, or downright impractical. Then, in the 2nd century BC, a court official named Kai Lun revolutionized everything by mixing mulberry bark, hemp, old rags, and fishnets into a pulp, pressing it flat and letting it dry. The result, a lightweight, durable surface that could carry words across empires. But here's what's truly mind-blowing: the basic process hasn't changed much since then. Modern factories might use wood pulp instead of fishnets, but the idea of breaking down fibers, forming sheets, and drying them is still the same. This wasn't just an invention, it was a cultural earthquake. Paper didn't just spread along the Silk Road, it fueled it, carrying ideas from China to Baghdad, then to Europe, turning knowledge from a luxury for the elite into something anyone could access. Imagine the ripple effect. Without paper, there'd be no printed books, no scientific journals, no Renaissance, no Age of Enlightenment. Entire civilizations were built on this humble material. And think about this: while we've digitized so much of our lives, paper still holds its own. There's something irreplaceable about the feel of a book, the scratch of a pen, the way a handwritten letter carries weight no email ever could. That's the mark of a truly timeless invention. It didn't just solve a problem, it reshaped humanity's relationship with knowledge itself. So next time you tear off a sheet from a notebook, remember, you're holding 2 millennia of history in your hands. Now, let's talk about an invention so fundamental that it literally keeps the world moving: the wheel. It's hard to imagine civilization without it, yet this stroke of genius didn't appear overnight. The earliest known wheels date back to Mesopotamia around 3500 BCE, but here's the twist: they weren't used for transportation. These ancient prototypes were potter's wheels, helping artisans shape clay into vessels with rhythmic precision. It took another 300 years for someone to realize that this spinning disc could do far more than craft pottery. It could carry weight. The first wheeled vehicles were clunky, solid wooden discs attached to ox-drawn carts. But even in their simplest form, they revolutionized trade, warfare, and daily life. Roads were built to accommodate them, empires expanded because of them, and the design remarkably consistent. Whether it's the spoke-wheeled chariots of ancient Egypt or the alloy rims on your car today, the core principle remains: a circular object rotating around an axle to reduce friction. That's a 5,500-year-old solution still rolling forward, but the wheel's impact goes beyond mechanics. It became a universal symbol of progress in cultures that revered it, like Hinduism's Dharma chakra, and even of futility in phrases like reinventing the wheel. It's a testament to its perfection that we've never truly improved upon the basic concept, only refined it. From steam engines to spacecraft, every leap in transportation still relies on this ancient innovation. So the next time you hop in a car or ride a bike, remember, you're tapping into one of humanity's oldest and most enduring ideas. The wheel didn't just change history, it set it in motion. Think about the most awe-inspiring buildings you've ever seen: skyscrapers piercing the clouds, bridges spanning impossible distances, or stadiums that seem to defy gravity. Now imagine structures so sturdy that after 2,000 years of wars, earthquakes, and relentless weather, they're still standing. That's the magic of Roman concrete, an ancient innovation so advanced that modern scientists are still unraveling its secrets. While today's concrete crumbles after decades, Roman harbors submerged in seawater for centuries remain intact, and the Pantheon's massive dome, the world's largest unreinforced concrete structure, hasn't cracked since it was poured in the 2nd century CE. So what made Roman concrete so indestructible? The answer lies in a blend of volcanic ash, lime, and seawater, a recipe lost for centuries. Unlike modern concrete, which relies on Portland cement and cracks under pressure, Roman mixtures included pozzolana ash from nearby volcanoes. When seawater seeped into the concrete, it triggered a chemical reaction, forming minerals that actually strengthened the material over time. It's like the concrete healed itself, a feature modern engineers can only dream of replicating. Recent studies even suggest that the Romans accidentally stumbled upon a nanostructured material, with tiny crystals interlacing to create unparalleled durability. The implications are staggering. Today, as we face crumbling infrastructure and the environmental toll of cement production, which accounts for nearly 8% of global carbon emissions, researchers are racing to reverse engineer this ancient marvel. Imagine rebuilding our cities with concrete that lasts millennia instead of decades, or constructing seawalls that grow stronger with each wave. The Pantheon isn't just a tourist attraction, it's a blueprint for a sustainable future. Every crack-free inch whispers a challenge. Why did we ever stop building this way? And here's the kicker: the Romans didn't just master durability, they engineered for beauty. Their concrete could be poured into intricate molds, creating the soaring arches and coffered ceilings that define their architectural legacy. Modern concrete often hides behind facades, but the Romans showcased theirs, turning structural necessity into art. So next time you walk past a pothole or a crumbling overpass, remember, the solution might not lie in the next high-tech material, but in the wisdom of an empire that knew how to build for eternity. Beneath the streets of modern cities, hidden from view, lies a network of pipes and tunnels that keep civilization running smoothly, a legacy we owe to an astonishingly advanced society over 4,000 years ago. While we often picture ancient history as primitive, the Indus Valley civilization had mastered something we still rely on today: plumbing. In Mohenjo-Daro, one of the world's first planned cities, engineers designed a sewer system so sophisticated it wouldn't be matched for millennia. Brick-lined drains ran beneath streets, connecting to homes with terracotta pipes that carried waste away from living spaces. An innovation that didn't just prioritize convenience but public health on a scale unimaginable for its time. What's truly staggering is the precision behind these systems. Archaeologists have uncovered copper pipes in Indus Valley ruins, some with standardized diameters, suggesting an early form of mass production. Water flowed through homes via gravity-fed systems with covered drains to prevent contamination. Compare that to medieval Europe, where waste often ended up in open streets, or even 19th century London, where cholera outbreaks forced the city to finally adopt proper sanitation. Ideas the Indus Valley had already perfected 2,000 years before Rome built its famed aqueducts. But here's where ancient ingenuity meets modern necessity. Today's water management, with its pressurized systems and treatment plants, might seem light years ahead, yet the core principle remains unchanged: isolate waste from drinking water to prevent disease. Those Indus Valley engineers didn't just invent plumbing, they codified the very concept of urban hygiene. Their systems reduced waterborne illnesses in densely populated cities, a challenge we still grapple with in developing regions. And the parallels don't stop there. Modern copper pipes, prized for their durability and antibacterial properties, echo the Indus Valley's own copper installations. Even the layout of their cities, with grid-patterned streets aligning with drainage, reflects a foresight we now call urban planning. It's a humbling reminder that the divide between ancient and advanced isn't as clear as we might think. Perhaps most striking is how their solutions mirror contemporary sustainability efforts. Instead of fighting nature, they worked with it, using gravity and locally sourced materials to create systems that lasted centuries. In an era where aging infrastructure and water scarcity dominate headlines, their legacy offers more than historical curiosity. It's a blueprint. The next time you turn on a tap or flush a toilet, remember, you're participating in a tradition of cleanliness that began not with modern science, but with the brilliance of a civilization that understood the true foundation of progress isn't just invention, it's preservation. Imagine tracking time without clocks, without apps, without even numbers, just the silent rhythm of the moon waxing and waning overhead. That's how it all began. 5,000 years ago, the Babylonians gazed at the night sky and noticed something extraordinary. The moon's cycles mirrored the seasons. 12 full moons passed between one spring and the next, and with that observation, humanity's first calendar was born. But this wasn't just about marking days, it was a survival tool. Plant too early and crops would freeze. Plant too late and they'd wither. The lunar calendar became the heartbeat of civilization, syncing planting, harvesting, and even religious festivals with celestial patterns. Yet the moon had a flaw: its 29 and a half-day cycle didn't neatly fit the solar year. Over time, the seasons drifted out of alignment, threatening the very agriculture the calendar was meant to protect. Enter the Egyptians, who turned their eyes to the sun instead. Along the Nile, where floods dictated life or famine, they noticed the star Sirius rose just before the annual inundation. By tracking this event, they crafted a solar calendar of 365 days, split into 12 30-day months with a 5-day festival to fill the gap. It was so precise that Julius Caesar would later adopt it as the foundation for the Julian calendar, the direct ancestor of our modern system. But here's what's wild. These ancient timekeepers didn't just count days, they embedded their worldview into the calendar's fabric. Babylonian months were named after gods, their lengths alternating between 29 and 30 days to honor the moon's imperfections. The Egyptians aligned their calendar with the heliacal rising of Sirius, tying time to the divine. Even the 7-day week, that traces back to Babylon's reverence for the 7 celestial bodies visible to the naked eye. And then there's the leap year, a fix so ingenious it's still in use today. The Egyptians knew their 365-day year was slightly off, but it was Caesar's astronomer Sosigenes who added an extra day every 4 years to keep the calendar in sync. Pope Gregory tweaked it further in 1582, fine-tuning the math to prevent future drift. The Gregorian calendar now governs everything from your birthday to global stock markets, yet its DNA is pure antiquity. Think about that next time you scribble a date on a check or plan a holiday. You're not just marking time, you're wielding a tool forged by farmers, priests, and astronomers who turn the chaos of the cosmos into order. The calendar wasn't just a way to track days, it was humanity's first attempt to tame eternity itself. Picture a world before maps, before GPS, before anyone truly understood how vast the oceans really were, a time when setting sail meant venturing into the unknown, guided only by the stars and sheer instinct. Then came a small, unassuming object that changed everything, the compass. Born in China's Han Dynasty around 206 BC, this humble device didn't just point north, it redefined humanity's relationship with the planet. The earliest compasses weren't the sleek needles we know today. They were spoon-shaped lodestones, a naturally magnetic mineral, carefully balanced on polished bronze plates. Chinese diviners used them to align buildings with cosmic forces long before anyone realized their potential for navigation. But by the time of the Song dynasty, around 1000 CE, these south-pointing fish, as they were poetically called, had leaped from the hands of mystics to the decks of ships. Suddenly, sailors could chart courses even when clouds swallowed the stars, turning the open sea from a treacherous gamble into a navigable highway. The ripple effects were staggering. With a compass, Zheng He's massive treasure fleet sailed as far as Africa in the 15th century, decades before Columbus stumbled onto the Americas. Arab traders carried the technology westward, where it fueled Europe's age of exploration. Vasco da Gama, Magellan, Cook, none could have circled the globe without this Chinese innovation. The compass didn't just expand trade routes, it welded continents together, sparking cultural exchanges that reshaped cuisine, language, and even genetics. Yet the real marvel is how little the core technology has changed. Modern smartphones still rely on the same principle, tiny magnetometers detecting Earth's magnetic field just packaged behind glass screens. Hikers carry pocket compasses nearly identical to those from the 1800s, and in an age of satellite navigation, sailors still learn analog compass skills as a fail-safe. There's poetry in that. A 2,000-year-old invention remains trusted where billion-dollar systems can fail. But the compass's legacy goes beyond practicality. It symbolizes something deeper: humanity's relentless push to explore, to push boundaries, to always seek direction. From ancient lodestones guiding emperors' decisions to the GPS in your pocket, the urge to navigate both land and life remains unchanged. So next time your phone shows you the way, remember, you're holding a descendant of one of history's quietest revolutions, a tool that didn't just point north but pointed civilization forward. Long before the blaring buzz of your smartphone jolts you awake, another sound pierced the ancient quiet, the measured drip of water marking time itself. In the 3rd century BC, while most of the world rose with the sun or relied on roosters, one of history's greatest thinkers engineered a solution that would echo through millennia. Plato, the philosopher who shaped Western thought, also had a practical side. He needed to wake up on time for his legendary lectures at the academy. His answer: a water clock so precise it doubled as history's first mechanical alarm. Here's how it worked. Imagine a ceramic vessel filled to the brim, water steadily leaking from a small hole at its base. As the level dropped, it exposed a hollow chamber inside. When the last drops drained away, air rushed in with a sharp, whistling sound, nature's ancient snooze button. But Plato's genius didn't stop there. By adjusting the size of the hole or the vessel's shape, he could customize the alarm to sound after specific intervals, whether for a dawn lecture or a timed debate. This wasn't just a tool for waking up, it was the birth of scheduled time management. The ripple effects of this invention were profound. Later versions, like those used in ancient Alexandria, added complexity: floating indicators that triggered bells or even mechanical birds that chirped when certain water levels were reached. Roman engineers scaled the concept into public timekeeping devices, while medieval monks adapted water clocks to regulate their prayer schedules. The underlying principle, using a predictable physical process to mark time, still powers modern alarms, whether it's the vibration of a quartz crystal or the digital countdown on your smartwatch. What's fascinating is how little the core purpose has changed. Plato's alarm wasn't just about convenience, it reflected a cultural shift toward valuing punctuality and structured routines. Today, when your alarm buzzes at 6 a.m. sharp, you're participating in a tradition that began with a philosopher's need to share wisdom on schedule. The vessels and whistles have been replaced by circuits and touchscreens, but the eternal struggle remains the same, outsmarting the human desire for just 5 more minutes. And here's the kicker: some of the oldest water clock designs were more customizable than today's one-size-fits-all alarms. Ancient engineers could tweak flow rates to account for seasonal changes in water viscosity, adjusting for temperature shifts that affected timing. It's a reminder that innovation isn't always linear. Sometimes the past holds solutions we've yet to rediscover. So tonight, when you set your alarm, remember, you're not just programming a device. You're continuing a dialogue with time that began when a Greek thinker decided dawn shouldn't be the only way to start a day. Imagine stepping barefoot onto a warm marble floor in the dead of winter, feeling heat radiate from beneath your feet, a luxury we associate with modern homes, yet one that wealthy Romans enjoyed over 2,000 years ago. While today we take central heating for granted, the hypocaust system invented in the 1st century BC was nothing short of revolutionary. Far from primitive, this network of raised floors and hollow walls circulated hot air from underground furnaces, bathing entire villas in consistent warmth. The engineering was so advanced that it still inspires modern heating solutions, proving that sometimes the oldest ideas are the most enduring. At the heart of the hypocaust was a simple yet brilliant concept: elevate the floor on brick or stone pillars, creating a gap where heat could travel. Slaves or servants would stoke wood-burning furnaces in an adjacent room, sending hot air through the cavity beneath the floors. From there, the warmth rose through terracotta pipes embedded in the walls, dispersing evenly without smoke or soot. The result: rooms stayed comfortably heated even as snow blanketed the courtyards outside. Wealthy homeowners took it even further. Some installed hollow tiles beneath their bathhouses' plunge pools to keep the water perpetually warm, a precursor to today's heated swimming pools. What's remarkable is how closely this mirrors contemporary radiant floor heating. Modern systems replace wood fires with electric coils or water-filled pipes, but the principle remains identical: heat from below, not forced air from vents. Architects and engineers now praise radiant heating for its efficiency and comfort, yet the Romans had already perfected the concept. Their hypocausts distributed heat evenly, eliminating cold spots and reducing energy waste, goals we're still chasing today. But the hypocaust wasn't just about comfort, it symbolized status and sophistication. Only the elite could afford the labor and materials required for such a system. The famed baths of Caracalla, with their sprawling hypocausts, weren't just places to bathe, they were displays of imperial power. Senators and merchants competed to install ever more elaborate heating in their villas, some even embedding precious metals into the terracotta ducts for added opulence. It's a reminder that technology and luxury have always been intertwined. And then there's the sustainability angle. Modern studies suggest that hypocausts were surprisingly energy efficient for their time, with heat retention that minimized fuel consumption. Some historians argue that if Rome had industrialized earlier, they might have refined the system further, perhaps even adapting it for renewable energy sources. Today, as we search for greener heating solutions, the hypocaust offers a lesson in passive design, working with physics rather than against it. The legacy of these ancient systems lingers in unexpected places. Walk through the ruins of Pompeii and you'll see the remnants of hypocaust pillars still standing, silent witnesses to a technology that outlasted an empire. Visit a high-end home today, and you might find underfloor heating marketed as a cutting-edge amenity, unaware that they're resurrecting a 2,000-year-old innovation. The hypocaust didn't just warm Roman villas, it laid the groundwork for how we think about comfort, efficiency, and the art of living well. So next time you enjoy the cozy embrace of radiant heat, remember, you're walking in the footsteps, literally, of emperors. At the height of the Persian Empire, when messages between distant provinces could take months by foot, one ruler devised a system so efficient it would become the backbone of global communication for centuries. Cyrus the Great didn't just build roads, he built an information superhighway. In 550 BC, his royal courier network, known as the Angarium, stretched over 1,600 miles, connecting the empire's farthest corners with a speed and reliability that wouldn't be matched until the 19th century. Horsemen stationed at relay posts would sprint their assigned segments, hand off messages to fresh riders, and repeat day and night in blizzards or scorching heat. A letter could travel from Susa to Sardis in just 7 days, a journey that ordinarily took 90. But here's what set the Persian system apart: it wasn't just speed. The Angarium was a logistical masterpiece. Couriers carried clay tablets inscribed with cuneiform, the empire's standardized script, ensuring clarity across languages. Roads were meticulously maintained, with way stations stocked with food, water, and spare horses. There were even encoded priority markers. Urgent missives bore distinctive seals, granting couriers the right to commandeer fresh mounts or clear crowded roads. It was the ancient equivalent of overnight delivery, complete with tracking and guaranteed service. The legacy of this system is etched into modern mail in ways we rarely acknowledge. The word post itself derives from the Latin positus, meaning station, echoing the Persian relay stops. When the U.S. Postal Service adopted the motto, "Neither snow nor rain nor heat nor gloom of night stays these couriers," they were quoting Herodotus' description of the Angarium's relentless efficiency. Even postage stamps owe a debt. The Persian system used clay or wax seals to authenticate senders, a precursor to the adhesive stamps that would standardize global mail millennia later. Yet the true genius of Cyrus' couriers wasn't just in moving messages, it was in moving power. For the first time, an empire could govern in real time, quashing rebellions before they spread or deploying troops with precision. Tax collectors received updated ledgers, spy networks coordinated across borders. The Angarium didn't just deliver mail, it welded fractured territories into a cohesive state. Modern logistics giants like FedEx or DHL operate on the same principle: control information, and you control the world. Perhaps most striking is how little the core challenges have changed. The Persians grappled with bandwidth. Only critical messages made the cut, much like today's parcel prioritization. They fought fraud with harsh penalties for tampering with seals. They even faced their own version of last-mile delivery issues, relying on local runners to reach remote villages. The solutions they pioneered, standardized routes, redundancy, secure packaging, are still the pillars of shipping today. So the next time you drop a letter in a mailbox or track a package on your phone, remember, you're tapping into a system that began with Cyrus' vision of connectedness. The horses have been replaced by jets, the clay tablets by barcodes, but the dream remains the same: to bridge distances, deliver trust, and keep the world moving, one message at a time. Deep in the vaults of the Egyptian Museum in Cairo lies an unassuming piece of wood that changed the course of human privacy forever: a 4,000-year-old pin tumbler lock, its teeth worn smooth by generations of hands. This humble artifact, carved from acacia and designed to secure noble tombs, represents one of humanity's oldest obsessions: the need to keep things safe from prying eyes. The Egyptians didn't just invent locks, they codified the very idea of ownership and personal space, turning crude barriers into intricate puzzles only the right person could solve. The mechanics were deceptively simple. Picture a wooden bolt with vertical holes drilled into it. When inserted into a door, pins of varying lengths would drop into these holes, locking the mechanism in place. The key, a long toothpick-like wooden stick with protruding pegs, slide it into the slot, and the pegs would lift each pin to exactly the right height, allowing the bolt to glide open. It was a dance of precision. Too short, and the pins would catch; too long, and they'd jam. For its time, this was cutting-edge security, a system so effective that variations of it would guard treasures from Babylon to Rome. But these locks weren't just functional, they were sacred. The Egyptians believed their intricate mechanisms mirrored the cosmic balance between order and chaos. Tomb locks often bore inscriptions invoking Anubis, the guardian of the underworld, turning physical security into spiritual protection. To own a key wasn't just about access, it was a symbol of status and divine favor. Some pharaohs were buried with gold-plated locks, their keys placed ceremonially in their hands, ensuring their treasures and their passage to the afterlife remained undisturbed. Fast forward to today, and the echo of those wooden pins is everywhere. Modern cylinder locks, the kind securing your front door right now, operate on the same basic principle. Instead of wooden pegs, we use metal pins of varying lengths, but the core idea remains unchanged. Align the pins perfectly, and the lock turns. Even high-tech electronic systems still rely on this ancient binary right combination: unlocks, wrong one denies. It's a testament to the Egyptians' ingenuity that their solution proved so timeless. Yet the legacy goes deeper than mechanics. The very concept of a key has shaped language and culture for millennia. We speak of unlocking potential or holding the keys to success, metaphors rooted in this primal technology. The Egyptians didn't just create a tool, they gave us a framework for trust in an uncertain world. From bank vaults to smartphone encryption, every security system traces its lineage back to that acacia wood lock. Proof that some innovations don't just endure, they become the bedrock of civilization itself. The chariots of ancient Greece didn't just race across battlefields, they rolled over a hidden innovation that would shape how we measure our world. In the 3rd century BCE, as Alexander the Great's empire stretched from Greece to India, his engineers faced a logistical nightmare: how to track the vast distances their armies traveled. The solution, a clattering, gear-driven device called the odometer, mounted discreetly on chariot axles. Every time the wheels completed a full rotation, a precisely calibrated gear would engage, dropping a pebble into a collection box. Count the pebbles at day's end, multiply by the wheel's circumference, and voila, you had the exact distance covered, accurate to within a fraction of a mile. This wasn't just clever gadgetry, it was mathematical poetry in motion. The Hellenistic engineers who designed it, possibly Archimedes himself, had to account for variables like wheel wear and uneven terrain. Some reconstructions suggest a complex system of gears with ratios as precise as 400 to 1, ensuring each pebble represented a standardized unit like the Greeks stayed about 600 feet. Imagine the precision required, all without micrometers or calculators, just bronze gears and sheer brilliance. But the odometer's legacy didn't stop with chariots. Roman surveyors adapted it to map their famed road network, etching milestones with distances measured by these very devices. Medieval Arab scholars like al-Biruni refined the design, using it to calculate the Earth's circumference with startling accuracy. And today, your car's digital odometer is a direct descendant, swapping pebbles for magnetic sensors but relying on the same core principle: count the rotations, calculate the distance. Even GPS systems use virtual odometry to cross-check satellite data, proving this ancient tool is still relevant in the space age. What's often overlooked is how the odometer transformed human perception of space. Before its invention, distance was often described in vague terms: a day's walk, or from sunrise to noon. The odometer introduced objectivity, turning geography into a science. Trade routes could be optimized, taxes levied based on precise transport costs, and military campaigns timed with unprecedented accuracy. It was the Google Maps of antiquity, hidden in the grease and dust of chariot wheels. Modern engineers still marvel at its elegance. The odometer required no external power, just motion itself, making it one of history's earliest examples of sustainable technology. Unlike today's fragile electronics, these devices could withstand sandstorms, mud, and battlefield chaos. There's even evidence that some odometers included fraud prevention, with seals to deter tampering, an ancient version of odometer rollback laws. So next time you glance at your dashboard to check your mileage, remember, you're not just reading a number. You're witnessing the unbroken thread of innovation that began when a Greek engineer heard the click of a gear and thought, now we can measure the world. That clattering chariot gadget didn't just log distances, it paved the way for everything from interstate highways to interplanetary rovers, proving that sometimes the oldest wheels still turn the future forward. There's a reason the arch feels timeless. This simple curve has carried the weight of civilizations for over 4,000 years, and it all started with a problem Mesopotamian builders couldn't ignore. Around 2000 BC, in the fertile plains between the Tigris and Euphrates, someone realized that stacking bricks in a straight line created a fatal flaw. The heavier the structure, the more likely it was to collapse under its own weight. But by arranging those same bricks in a semicircle, something magical happened. The weight above the arch wasn't a burden, it became an ally, channeling forces outward and downward into sturdy supporting walls. This wasn't just construction, it was physics harnessed in clay and stone. The Romans didn't just adopt the arch, they weaponized it. By the time of the empire, engineers had perfected the formula, using volcanic concrete to create arches so robust they could span rivers, support aqueducts, and even hold up the Colosseum's towering tiers. The secret: keystones, those wedge-shaped center stones that lock an arch's components into place. When a Roman arch bore weight, every stone pressed against its neighbor, creating a self-reinforcing system where compression became strength. The Pantheon's dome, still the world's largest unreinforced concrete ceiling after 2 millennia, is essentially a rotated arch, proof that this ancient innovation could defy gravity itself. Fast forward to today, and the arch's legacy is etched into every city skyline. Gothic cathedrals used pointed arches to soar toward heaven, while modern engineers employ steel-reinforced versions to build bridges that stretch across bays and canyons. The Eiffel Tower, its curved base, is essentially 4 monumental arches sharing the load. Even skyscrapers rely on arched foundations to distribute their massive weight safely into the earth. What makes the arch so enduring isn't just its strength, it's its adaptability. Whether it's the delicate arches of a medieval cloister or the brutalist curves of a 20th century dam, the principle remains unchanged: redirect force, and you unlock new dimensions of possibility. But perhaps the most poetic tribute to the arch lies in its symbolism. From triumphal arches celebrating military victories to the golden gate of a Buddhist temple, this shape has always represented passage and transformation. It's no accident that we speak of arching toward progress or turning the corner, language steeped in the arch's promise of stability amid change. The next time you walk under a bridge or through a doorway, take a second to appreciate the silent genius overhead. That curve isn't just holding up the roof, it's holding up history. Imagine a world where every piece of glass was thick, cloudy, and shaped like a clumsy bowl. Until one day, by pure accident, a Syrian craftsman dipped a hollow reed into molten silica and blew. That single breath in the 1st century BC didn't just create a bubble, it ignited a revolution in transparency, artistry, and everyday life. The story goes that glassmakers near the Phoenician coast were experimenting with molds when someone noticed that gathering molten glass on a tube allowed it to be inflated like a bubble. What began as a happy accident became one of history's most enduring crafts. merging physics and artistry in a dance of fire and breath that's barely changed in 2,000 years. The magic of glassblowing lies in its duality. It's both wildly inventive and stubbornly traditional. Ancient artisans quickly realized that by rotating the blowpipe and controlling the air pressure, they could shape glass into vessels thinner and more intricate than anything carved from stone or cast in metal. Suddenly, windows could let in light without drafts, pharmacies had sterile containers for medicines, and households prized delicate goblets that caught the sunlight like trapped gems. The Roman Empire, never one to miss a luxury trend, turned Syrian glassblowers into celebrities, their workshops producing everything from perfume bottles traded along the Silk Road to mosaic tiles that glittered in imperial villas. What's astonishing is how little the core process has evolved. Visit a Venetian glassblower on Murano today, and you'll see the same steps practiced in Syria 2 millennia ago, gathering molten glass on a pipe, rolling it on a mava to shape it, then using gravity, breath, and simple tools to coax it into form. The tools themselves are eerily familiar: jacks for pinching, shears for trimming, blocks for smoothing, all descendants of ancient designs. Even the challenges remain the same: work too slowly and the glass hardens, blow too hard and the bubble bursts. It's a testament to the perfection of that original discovery that modern technology hasn't improved upon it, only supplemented it with electric furnaces and mass production. But glassblowing's legacy isn't just about utility. It transformed how humanity sees the world literally. Before clear glass, science struggled. Lenses for microscopes and telescopes wouldn't exist without the precision of blown glass. Stained glass windows turned sunlight into storytelling in medieval cathedrals, while laboratory glassware enabled the chemical revolutions of the 19th century. Even today, fiber optic cables, the backbone of global communication, rely on strands of glass pure enough to carry light across oceans, a direct descendant of those early Syrian bubbles. And then there's the art. From the delicate millefeuille beads traded in ancient Africa to Dale Chihuli's swirling contemporary sculptures, glassblowing remains one of the few crafts where the medium is as alive as the artist. The glass resists flows and remembers every touch, demanding a partnership between creator and material. Watch a master at work, and you're witnessing a dialogue older than Christianity, one where fire, breath, and human imagination collide. The next time you sip from a glass bottle or glance through a window, remember, you're interacting with an invention so perfect that 2,000 years of progress haven't rendered it obsolete. Some accidents aren't just lucky, they're timeless. Before cities, before empires, even before written language, humanity faced one relentless challenge: how to feed itself. The solution emerged from the fertile mud of Mesopotamia around 3000 BCE, where Sumerian farmers took a simple wooden stick and bent it into history's most transformative tool, the plow. At first glance, it doesn't look like much, just a curved piece of wood dragged by oxen to scratch lines in the earth. But those humble furrows marked the dawn of civilization itself. For the first time, humans could turn hard-packed soil into a nurturing bed for seeds, multiplying crop yields so dramatically that cities could flourish. What we're really talking about here isn't just a farming implement, it's the foundation of everything that followed. The genius of the plow lies in its efficiency. Before its invention, farmers relied on handheld digging sticks, breaking the soil inch by exhausting inch. A single family might spend days preparing a tiny plot, their survival hanging by a thread each season. But with the plow, a team of oxen could till an entire field before noon, turning subsistence farming into surplus agriculture. Suddenly, not everyone had to work the land. Some could specialize as potters, weavers, scribes, giving birth to the division of labor that defines modern society. The plow didn't just grow crops, it grew economies. And the evolution didn't stop there. By 2000 BC, the Mesopotamians had added a funnel-shaped seed drill to their plows, dropping kernels directly into the furrows as they tilled. This wasn't just innovation, it was precision farming millennia before GPS-guided tractors. Roman engineers later improved the design with iron tips, slicing through tougher soils to expand arable land across Europe. Fast forward to the Industrial Revolution, and steam-powered plows shattered the limits of human and animal labor, feeding ballooning urban populations. Today's massive tractors with computerized soil sensors, they're direct descendants of that Sumerian wood curve. But the plow's legacy isn't just technological, it's ecological and even philosophical. The act of turning the earth altered landscapes on a planetary scale, shaping terrains to human will. It's no coincidence that cultures from China to Peru revered plows as sacred objects, symbols of humanity's covenant with nature to wrest order from chaos. Yet there's a darker side: deforestation, erosion, and the environmental costs of intensive agriculture all trace back to that first breaking of the soil. The plow forced us to confront a question we're still grappling with: how to balance abundance against sustainability. What's extraordinary is how little the core principle has changed. Whether it's a farmer in Ethiopia guiding an ox-drawn Ard plow or a combine harvester in Kansas unleashing 500 horsepower, the goal remains the same: to prepare the earth for life. That's the plow's quiet power. It turned dirt into destiny. So next time you bite into a slice of bread or pass a field of swaying grain, remember, you're tasting the fruit of an invention that didn't just change how we farm, but how we live. The plow didn't merely carve furrows in the earth, it carved the path to civilization itself. Long before the mechanical tick of clocks split our days into minutes, time flowed like a river, marked by shadows stretching and shrinking in the sun's arc. The Babylonians didn't just notice these patterns, they carved them into stone around 1500 BC, creating humanity's first portable timekeeper, the sundial. Imagine a simple clay disc with a raised gnomon casting its shadow across etched lines, each marking an hour as the sun marched westward. But this was no crude gadget. It was a masterpiece of astronomy and geometry, accurate to within 15 minutes even by modern standards. The secret lay in the angles. Babylonian mathematicians calibrated their dials to account for seasonal shifts in the sun's path, adjusting the gnomon's tilt based on latitude. This wasn't just telling time, it was harnessing celestial mechanics in stone. What's astonishing is how these early sundials shaped daily life in ways we still recognize today. Temple priests used them to schedule rituals precisely at solar noon, when the shadow pointed due north. Merchants timed market closures by the shadow's length, creating the world's first standardized business hours. Even the concept of dividing daylight into 12 equal parts, a system we still use, comes directly from these Babylonian designs. The dial's circular layout mirrored their base 60 numeral system, which survives in our 60-minute hours and 360-degree circles. Every time you glance at your watch, you're reading a code written by ancient astronomers who saw time as geometry made visible. But sundials were more than tools, they were philosophical statements. In Egypt, obelisks served as monumental gnomons, their shadows mapping the pharaoh's divine connection to Ra's journey across the sky. Greek sundials often bore inscriptions like, "I count only the sunny hours," reminding viewers of life's fleeting beauty. The Romans took this further, building elaborate hemispherical sundials in public squares where citizens could literally watch their civic duties unfold in shadow length. These weren't just timekeepers, they were mirrors held up to mortality itself, blending science and poetry in ways our digital clocks rarely achieve. The transition from sundials to mechanical clocks wasn't a revolution, it was an evolution. Medieval European clockmakers initially designed their mechanisms to mimic sundials, with clock faces divided into 12 hours and hands moving clockwise to follow the sun's shadow. Even the word clockwise itself comes from this imitation of shadow paths in the northern hemisphere. Early portable sundials, some small enough to hang from belts, were the ancestors of pocket watches, precious personal devices that signaled status as clearly as today's luxury wristwear. What modern timekeeping gained in precision, it arguably lost in connection. Sundials forced people to look up, to notice cloud movements, seasonal changes, and the Earth's tilt. They anchored time to the physical world in a way atomic clocks can't replicate. Today, sundials still fascinate us, not as relics but as teachers. NASA engineers consult them when designing Mars rovers' solar panels, and architects use their principles to design energy-efficient buildings. That gnommon's shadow still holds secrets, from tracking climate change through shifting solar angles to inspiring artists who play with light and time. So the next time you check your phone for the hour, pause for a second. That digital number is the grandchild of a Babylonian shadow, one that measured not just minutes, but humanity's first attempts to pin down something as vast and invisible as time itself. The sundial didn't just mark hours, it taught us to see the universe as a clock and ourselves as part of its endless turning dance. In the year 132, a brilliant Chinese polymath named Zhang Heng unveiled something that must have seemed like magic, an ornate bronze vessel that could detect earthquakes hundreds of miles away without shaking itself. This was the seismoscope, a masterpiece of ancient engineering that predated modern seismographs by nearly 2,000 years. Picture a copper urn adorned with 8 dragon heads, each holding a bronze ball in its jaws, while 8 corresponding toads sat with open mouths below. When the earth trembled even faintly, an internal pendulum would swing, triggering a mechanism that released a single ball into a toad's mouth. The direction of the fallen ball pointed toward the quake's epicenter, giving officials critical time to send aid or prepare for aftershocks. What's remarkable isn't just the invention's existence, but its precision. Historical records describe how, in one instance, the seismoscope detected a quake west of Loyang when no one in the capital had felt a tremor. Days later, messengers arrived from the region confirming devastation exactly where the device had indicated. Modern scientists still debate the exact mechanics. Some suggest the urn contained an inverted pendulum or even a system of levers, but the underlying principle mirrors today's seismology: convert ground motion into measurable action. Zhang Heng's design was so advanced that engineers didn't replicate its sensitivity until the 19th century, when Western inventors finally developed mechanical seismographs. But the seismoscope wasn't just a scientific tool, it was a political and cultural game-changer. In an empire where earthquakes were seen as divine omens, this device shifted the narrative from superstition to observation. Provincial governors could no longer dismiss tremors as local rumors. The emperor now had proof, delivered by a bronze dragon's dropped ball. The seismoscope became a symbol of Han Dynasty ingenuity, blending artistry with function in a way that still captivates. Visit the National Museum of China today, and you'll see reconstructions of Zhang Heng's design, its dragons frozen mid-warning, a testament to how one man's curiosity could tame the Earth's chaos. What's often overlooked is how this ancient device speaks to modern challenges. Contemporary seismologists face the same hurdle Zhang Heng did, detecting quakes quickly enough to save lives. Today's networks of digital sensors and satellite alerts are technological descendants of that bronze urn, striving for the same goal: turning unpredictability into actionable data. There's even a poetic symmetry in how both systems rely on motion-triggered responses, whether it's a swinging pendulum or an electronic impulse. The difference. Zhang Heng's alarm didn't need electricity, just gravity and careful craftsmanship. The legacy of the seismoscope lingers in unexpected places. Its blend of form and function inspires industrial designers who argue that safety equipment needn't be utilitarian. The idea of early warning systems traces back to those 8 toads waiting patiently for a ball to drop. And in classrooms worldwide, teachers still use replicas to demonstrate how ancient innovations laid the groundwork for modern science. Next time you hear about earthquake preparedness, remember the blueprint wasn't drawn in a Silicon Valley lab, but in a Han Dynasty workshop where a visionary looked at the Earth's rumblings and thought, we can listen. The Greeks didn't just wage war, they weaponized physics. Around 400 BCE, in the shadow of the Peloponnesian War, a revolutionary machine emerged from the workshops of Syracuse, the catapult. At its core, this wasn't just a tool for hurling stones. It was the world's first practical application of elastic energy in combat. Picture twisted ropes made of animal sinew or human hair, wound so tightly they could store immense tension. Release that energy suddenly, and you could launch a 10-pound rock 300 yards far beyond the range of any bow. But the real genius lay in its adaptability. Greek engineers quickly realized that by adjusting the torsion spring's tightness or the arm's length, they could calibrate trajectory and force with terrifying precision. This wasn't brute strength, it was mathematics in motion. What began as the gastrophetes, a handheld crossbow-like device, evolved into the massive ballista and onager, machines capable of smashing through fortress walls or showering enemy lines with incendiary projectiles. The Romans later refined these designs, adding wheels for mobility and iron reinforcements for durability, but the core mechanics remained Greek. By the Middle Ages, the catapult's descendants, like the trebuchet, took center stage in siege warfare. These counterweight-powered giants could fling 200-pound boulders or even diseased carcasses over castle walls, turning psychology into a weapon as much as physics. The terror of watching a trebuchet's arm swing wasn't just in the impact, it was in the anticipation, the eerie groan of ropes and the arc of death tracing across the sky. Yet the catapult's legacy extends far beyond battlefields. Its principles underpin modern projectile technology, from the coiled springs in industrial machinery to the launch mechanisms of aircraft carriers. Even space exploration owes it a debt. NASA engineers studied trebuchet dynamics when designing early payload delivery systems. The Greeks may have built their machines to breach walls, but in doing so, they breached the boundary between raw force and calculated engineering. But here's the twist, the catapult also democratized warfare. Before its invention, sieges favored defenders. High walls and limited arrow range made assaults costly. The catapult shifted that balance, forcing architects to reimagine fortifications with thicker walls and angled bastions. This arms race between projectile and defense shaped urban design for centuries, visible in everything from medieval castles to star forts of the Renaissance. The catapult didn't just change how wars were fought, it changed how civilizations built their strongholds. Today, reconstructions of these ancient machines reveal their startling sophistication. Modern engineers have found that Greek torsion springs achieved efficiencies rivaling modern synthetic materials, while trebuchets could hit targets within a 3-yard margin of error at 200 yards, comparable to some artillery of the American Civil War. That precision wasn't accidental, it was the product of rigorous experimentation, recorded in surviving texts like Philo of Byzantium's mechanic syntaxis. These weren't crude devices, they were the apex of their era's STEM. So the next time you see a slingshot or watch a construction crane in action, remember, you're witnessing the echo of an idea born when a Greek engineer looked at a coiled rope and saw the potential to reshape empires. The catapult wasn't just a weapon, it was the first whisper of engineering's power to bend the physical world to human will. And in that tension between rope and release, between destruction and innovation, lies a truth as old as civilization itself. Progress often springs from the unlikeliest of twists. Riding bareback is an art, but fighting from horseback without support, that's a death wish. Every gallop threatens to unseat you, every sword swing risks sending you tumbling into the dust. Then around 300 CE, a Chinese craftsman bent a simple iron loop into the shape of a question mark, and the entire calculus of warfare shifted overnight. The stirrup wasn't just a footrest, it was the ultimate force multiplier, transforming cavalry from skirmishers into shock troops that could topple empires. By giving riders a stable platform to brace against, this unassuming hoop allowed warriors to wield heavier weapons, pivot dynamically, and strike with devastating precision, all while their horse charged at full speed. The military advantages were staggering. Before stirrups, chariots dominated battlefields' clunky platforms that required flat terrain and teams of horses. Nomadic tribes like the Xiongnu had mastered horseback archery through sheer thigh strength, but even they couldn't sustain prolonged combat without fatigue. With the advent of stirrups, cavalry became the apex predator of warfare. A lancer could now transfer the full momentum of a charging steed through his weapon, delivering blows with enough force to pierce armor. The difference was like comparing a flick to a sledgehammer swing. By the Tang dynasty, China's armored cataphracts riders and horses, both clad in lamella, were practically unstoppable, their stirrups allowing them to wield two-handed lances with terrifying control. But the stirrups' impact rippled far beyond tactics. It reshaped societies. In Europe, where the technology arrived via the Avars around the 6th century, it birthed the age of knights. Suddenly, armored warriors on horseback became the elite backbone of medieval armies, their dominance secured by the ability to fight effectively from the saddle. Feudalism itself was partly built on the cost of maintaining stirrup-equipped cavalry. Land grants were exchanged for military service, creating a warrior aristocracy whose power hinged on this single innovation. The stirrup didn't just change how people fought, it changed who held power. What's astonishing is how little the design has evolved. Modern equestrian stirrups still mirror the basic shape of those first Chinese models, a D-shaped loop with a flat base for the foot. Materials have upgraded from iron to lightweight alloys, and safety features like quick-release mechanisms have been added, but the core function remains identical. Even elite competitors in dressage or show jumping rely on the same fundamental physics. That tiny platform lets them channel their body's movements into the horse with millimeter precision. The stirrup's longevity is a testament to its perfection, a rare case where the first iteration got it almost entirely right. Beyond warfare and sport, the stirrup quietly revolutionized daily life. Farmers could plow fields more efficiently by bracing in their stirrups to guide horse-drawn equipment. Messengers rode longer distances without exhaustion, speeding up communication networks. Even the act of mounting a horse, once a feat requiring agility or a boost from a servant, became accessible to nearly anyone, democratizing horseback travel. The stirrup's influence is so pervasive that we barely notice it today, like the inventor of the wheel who never got a parade. So next time you see a cowboy in a western or a knight in a medieval tapestry, look down at their feet. That unassuming loop hanging from the saddle is more than a tool. It's the unsung hero of mobility, the pivot point around which centuries of history turned. The stirrup didn't just give riders stability, it gave civilization itself a foothold to leap forward. Before silicon chips or mechanical gears, calculations happened between beads and rods, an elegant dance of digits that began in the dusty markets of Mesopotamia around 2700 BC. The abacus wasn't just the world's first calculator, it was a revolution in numerical thought, turning abstract math into something tactile and immediate. Picture a wooden frame strung with wires, each lined with beads that could be slid back and forth to represent units, tens, hundreds. But this was no child's toy. Trained users could perform complex arithmetic faster than many modern adults can tap buttons on a smartphone, their fingers flicking beads with the precision of concert pianists. The genius of the abacus lay in its universality. Unlike written numerals which varied wildly between cultures, the abacus transcended language barriers. The Chinese suanpan added a clever twist upper decks with two beads representing fives, speeding up calculations. The Japanese soroban refined it further, becoming so efficient that even in the 1960s, businessmen in Tokyo would challenge electronic calculators to speed contests and often win. Roman merchants carried pocket-sized versions, while the Inca adapted the concept into their quipu knot system. For millennia, from Baghdad to Byzantium, the abacus was the global language of commerce, taxation, and astronomy. But this ancient tool's legacy isn't confined to history books. Walk into a Montessori classroom today, and you'll see children learning math on brightly colored abacuses, their hands tracing the same movements as Babylonian accountants 5,000 years ago. Neurologists have discovered that abacus training lights up unique neural pathways, combining visual, spatial, and tactile learning in ways that digital screens can't replicate. In Japan, mental abacus, or anzen, is still taught as a discipline where users visualize the bead movements to solve equations without physical tools. Some practitioners can calculate 10-digit numbers faster than you can say them aloud. What's truly astonishing is how the abacus's logic underpins modern computing. Early computer pioneers like Charles Babbage studied its mechanics when designing difference engines. Binary code, the foundation of all digital technology, mirrors the abacus's on/off, yes/no simplicity. Each bead is like a bit, its position representing a state that can be read and manipulated. Even quantum computing's qubits owe a philosophical debt to this ancient device's ability to hold multiple values in flux. The abacus didn't just calculate numbers, it encoded a way of thinking about information that still shapes our digital age. Perhaps the most poetic testament to its endurance came in 2011, when NASA engineers included an abacus as backup navigation gear on space shuttles, a low-tech failsafe against electronic failure. After all, it doesn't need batteries, can't be hacked, and works in zero gravity. That's the abacus's quiet power. In a world obsessed with upgrades, it remains perfect. So next time you tap numbers into your phone, remember, you're continuing a conversation that began when someone first slid beads along a dusty wire, proving that sometimes the simplest tools outlast the flashiest technology. The abacus didn't just count things, it taught us how to think. Standing over 400 feet tall on the island of Pharos, its beacon visible from 30 miles at sea, the Great Lighthouse of Alexandria wasn't just a navigational aid, it was a towering declaration of human ambition. Built around 280 BC under Ptolemy I, this wonder of the ancient world combined brute strength with delicate precision in ways that still leave engineers in awe. Picture a three-tiered marble giant, a square base fortified against waves, an octagonal midsection tapering upward, and a cylindrical tower crowned by a massive bronze mirror reflecting sunlight by day and an eternal flame by night. But the real magic lay in what visitors couldn't see: the helical ramp spiraling inside, wide enough for ox-drawn carts to haul firewood to the summit, and the ingenious pulley system that hoisted fuel past intricate counterweights. This wasn't just architecture, it was mechanical poetry written in stone. The lighthouse's brilliance wasn't limited to its structure. Its creators understood optics centuries before the word existed. By polishing the bronze reflector to near-mirror perfection and positioning it at precise angles, they amplified the fire's glow into a piercing beam that cut through Mediterranean storms like a blade. Some historians speculate they may have even used lenses or glass globes filled with water to intensify the light. Proto-Fresnel lenses millennia ahead of their time. Sailors from Greece to Phoenicia relied on its unwavering signal, whispering prayers of thanks as its glow pierced the haze, guiding them safely past the treacherous sandbars lurking near Alexandria's harbor. In an age when shipwrecks could erase fortunes and lives in an instant, the Pharos wasn't just a landmark, it was salvation cast in fire and marble. What's astonishing is how this ancient innovation became the genetic code for every lighthouse that followed. The Romans replicated its tiered design from Ostia to Dover, while medieval builders in the Islamic world adapted its mirror systems for coastal beacons from Ceuta to Zanzibar. Even today's automated lighthouses with their solar panels and radar reflectors serve the same sacred purpose, a fixed point of orientation in the chaos of wind and wave. Modern engineers still study descriptions of the pharaoh's foundations, how its architects submerged layers of molten lead and rubble to stabilize against earthquakes, a technique echoed in the shock-absorbing bases of contemporary skyscrapers. But the lighthouse's legacy transcends engineering. It became a cultural touchstone, symbolizing safe harbor in everything from Homer's epics to Christian iconography. Its destruction in the 14th century, toppled by earthquakes after 1,600 years of service, didn't erase its influence, it cemented its myth. The very word pharaohs became root for lighthouse in Romance languages, from French fair to Spanish pharaoh, and in a twist of poetic justice, its fragments may have helped build another wonder, the citadel of Kate Bay, a medieval fortress standing guard where the lighthouse once shone. So the next time you pass a coastal beacon blinking in the darkness, remember, you're witnessing the unbroken lineage of an idea born when Alexandrian engineers looked at the unforgiving sea and thought, we can build light. The pharaohs didn't just warn sailors of rocks, it illuminated humanity's stubborn refusal to be at the mercy of nature. Its flame may be extinguished, but its promise still burns in every pulse of light guiding wanderers home. Beneath the scorching Mesopotamian sun around 2400 BCE, an idea took shape that would follow humanity through rain and shine for millennia, the umbrella. But forget everything you know about compact folding canopies and waterproof nylon. The earliest umbrellas were aristocratic accessories crafted from palm fronds, feathers, and stretched papyrus, designed not to repel rain but to cast life-saving shade. In lands where the sun was as much a tyrant as any king, these early parasols became walking pieces of portable architecture, their broad canopies offering respite to nobles and priests as they moved between palace and temple. The royal parasol wasn't just practical, it was a floating crown, its size and materials broadcasting wealth and divinity. Egyptian pharaohs rode beneath tiered canopies of striped linen, while Mesopotamian rulers favored elaborate designs inlaid with lapis lazuli and gold leaf, turning shade into a spectacle. The umbrella's transformation from sunshade to rain shield is a story of cultural migration, as trade routes carried the concept from desert kingdoms to monsoon-drenched regions like ancient China and India. The materials evolved while the form remained eerily consistent. By the Han Dynasty, Chinese artisans were waterproofing silk canopies with layers of lacquer and wax, creating collapsible designs so ingenious they'd put modern umbrellas to shame. A 2nd century CE text describes umbrellas with telescoping ribs made from flexible bamboo, able to expand with a flick of the wrist, a far cry from the rigid parasols of the Nile Valley. What began as a shield against celestial fire became armor against the heavens' tears, proving that necessity isn't just the mother of invention, it's also the mother of reinvention. But the umbrella's journey wasn't just about weatherproofing, it was about meaning. In Buddhist iconography, the umbrella's dome symbolized protection from spiritual delusion, its ribs representing the path to enlightenment. Roman matrons carried umbrellas as status symbols, while in West Africa, kings held court beneath colossal versions requiring multiple bearers. The umbrella's most subversive chapter came in 18th century London, when entrepreneur Jonas Hanway defied ridicule by carrying a rain umbrella in public, until then considered effeminate continental frippery. His stubbornness sparked a revolution in personal weather gear that would sweep the Western world, proving that sometimes progress requires getting a little wet first. What makes the umbrella extraordinary isn't just its longevity, but its duality. The same object that shaded Cleopatra from the Egyptian sun now keeps Tokyo commuters dry during typhoons. Modern engineers still study ancient collapsible designs for space-efficient solutions, while haute couture runway shows prove the parasol's enduring theatrical potential. Even the humble golf umbrella with its space-age fiberglass ribs owes its DNA to those palm frond prototypes. The next time you unfurl an umbrella, consider this: you're participating in a 4,000-year-old ritual of human ingenuity, stretching from the dusty courtyards of Ur to the slick streets of Manhattan. Some inventions don't just stand the test of time, they weather it. High above the battlefields of ancient China, where smoke and chaos reign below, an unexpected messenger soared, a silk kite tethered to the ground by hemp strings, its bamboo frame trembling in the wind. Invented as early as the 5th century BC, these weren't children's toys but military tools of startling sophistication. General Han Xin of the Han Dynasty famously used kites to measure distances, flying them over enemy walls to calculate how long tunnels needed to be for siege breaking. Other commanders tied bamboo pipes to their lines, letting the wind whip across them to produce eerie whistles, a psychological weapon meant to terrify foes with what they believed were the shrieks of angry spirits. The kite wasn't just flying, it was rewriting the rules of warfare, turning air itself into a battlefield. Centuries later, across oceans and cultures, the kite took on a new role, not as a weapon, but as a key to unlocking nature's secrets. In 1752, Benjamin Franklin's famous and notoriously dangerous experiment with a silk kite and a metal key proved that lightning was electrical, a discovery that would pave the way for everything from power grids to weather science. What made the kite perfect for this was its simplicity. A lightweight frame could ascend into storm clouds without attracting attention from the charge, while the damp string conducted electricity just enough to deliver a spark. Franklin wasn't the first to see potential in kites. Polymaths like Alexander Wilson had already used them to study atmospheric temperature, but his experiment cemented their place in scientific history. The same device that once haunted ancient battlefields now illuminated the mysteries of physics. Today, kites have shed their military and scientific gravitas to become symbols of pure joy, yet their design remains a testament to ancient ingenuity. From the diamond-shaped eddy kites of the 1800s to the acrobatic stunt kites of modern festivals, the core principles haven't changed. Bamboo and silk have given way to fiberglass and ripstop nylon, but the dance between wind and wing still follows the same aerodynamics Han Xin's generals would recognize. In places like Weifang, China, the kite capital of the world, artisans craft elaborate designs spanning hundreds of feet, from undulating dragons to intricate octopuses, proving that what began as a tool of war can also be a canvas for human creativity. Perhaps the most poetic evolution is how kites now bridge generations. A child running across a beach with a rainbow-colored kite isn't just playing, they're participating in a tradition that spans 2.5 millennia, connected to spies, scientists, and soldiers who once looked to the skies and saw possibility. The kite's legacy is a reminder that invention isn't just about purpose, it's about potential. What starts as a weapon might become a toy, a tool, or a teacher, its strings tying us not just to the wind, but to the endless ingenuity of those who came before. The clatter of interlocking metal rings is a sound that would have struck fear or hope into hearts across ancient battlefields. Around the 3rd century BC, the Celts perfected an innovation that would redefine personal armor for centuries: chainmail. Picture thousands of tiny iron rings, each painstakingly linked to 4 others in alternating rows, forming a flexible metal fabric that could turn slashing blows into glancing scrapes. This wasn't just protection, it was metallurgical alchemy, transforming rigid metal into something that moved with the wearer. A Celtic warrior clad in chainmail wasn't weighed down by bulky bronze plates. He was shielded yet agile, his armor dispersing the energy of sword strikes across countless interconnected rings. The difference between life and death often came down to the craftsmanship of those tiny circles, each one hammered shut with precision that would put modern jewelers to shame. But chainmail's genius lay in its adaptability. Roman legionaries, quick to recognize superior technology when they saw it, adopted and refined the design into the iconic lorica hamata, adding shoulder-doubling layers for extra defense. By the Middle Ages, knights wore hauberks that draped from neck to knee, their mail coifs protecting vulnerable throats while still allowing heads to turn. Unlike plate armor, which required exact tailoring, chainmail could be passed down or adjusted with simple ring additions, making it the ultimate heirloom of war. The sheer labor involved, up to 30,000 rings for a single shirt, meant it was often more valuable than the swords it deflected, a testament to the wearer's status as much as their survival instincts. Fast forward to today, and you'll find chainmail's DNA woven into surprising places. Butchers and fishmongers wear cut-resistant gloves lined with stainless steel rings, allowing them to handle razor-sharp blades with confidence. Deep-sea divers don chainmail shark suits, where the same interlocking principle that stopped Celtic spears now withstands bites from great whites. Even in haute couture, designers like Alexander McQueen have draped models in avant-garde mail dresses, proving that this ancient armor can shimmer on runways as fiercely as it once did on battlefields. The secret to chainmail's endurance is physics, not just tradition. When force strikes a rigid surface, it concentrates at the point of impact, but chainmail spreads that energy outward like ripples in a pond. Modern materials science has confirmed what Celtic blacksmiths knew instinctively. A well-made mail garment can absorb and redistribute impacts far better than many synthetic alternatives. Some bomb disposal suits still incorporate chainmail layers for this reason, blending medieval wisdom with Kevlar. Perhaps most remarkably, the basic techniques haven't changed. Visit a historical reenactor's workshop today, and you'll see artisans using the same European 4-in-1 weave perfected 2 millennia ago. The rings might be machine-cut now, but the rhythm of opening, linking, and closing remains a meditation in patience, one that connects the present to the clang of ancient forges. From the hands of a Celtic smith to the gloves of a Michelin-starred chef, chainmail proves that the best inventions aren't just useful, they're endlessly reinventable. Those interlocked rings didn't just protect bodies, they forged an unbroken chain of ingenuity stretching across the ages. Picture a Byzantine banquet in the 4th century, where jeweled fingers cradle not knives or spoons, but a radical new utensil, a two-pronged golden fork. This wasn't just a dining tool, it was a status symbol so scandalously luxurious that priests condemned it as sinful excess. While popular myth claims forks didn't reach Europe until the Renaissance, the truth is far more fascinating. The earliest forks emerged in the Eastern Roman Empire, where aristocratic women used them to spear sticky candied fruits without staining their sleeves, a detail so specific it reveals how innovation often springs from the intersection of vanity and practicality. The fork's journey from imperial oddity to global essential is a story of cultural resistance. When Byzantine Princess Theodora Anna Doukaina brought her golden forks to Venice in the 11th century, locals were horrified. Why would anyone reject God's perfect utensil's fingers for something so decadent? For centuries, forks remained suspect in Western Europe, dismissed as effeminate or heretical. Even as late as 1600, English traveler Thomas Coryate faced ridicule for using what he called his little pitchfork after seeing them in Italy. The turning point came when pasta's popularity exploded. Twirling spaghetti with fingers proved messy, while forks offered elegant control. Suddenly, practicality trumped prejudice. But the fork's global dominance wasn't inevitable. Chopsticks reigned in East Asia, while Ethiopians perfected the art of injera bread as edible utensil. What sealed the fork's victory was industrialization. Mass-produced steel forks became affordable in the 19th century, coinciding with changing dining etiquette that prioritized hygiene over tactile eating. The four-tined design we know today, that was a Victorian innovation. The extra prongs made spearing peas less embarrassing for the middle class, what's often overlooked is how forks reshaped human anatomy. Anthropologists note that modern forks require precisely angled wrists that would have baffled medieval diners. The humble fork didn't just change how we eat, it rewired our motor skills, turning mealtimes into a silent ballet of coordination. From bone carvings in ancient Anatolia to titanium camping sporks, this Byzantine luxury proves that even the simplest tools can rewrite cultural scripts one bite at a time. In a dusty corner of the Baghdad Museum lies an unassuming clay jar that could rewrite the history of technology if only we could decipher its secrets. Discovered in 1936 near Qujat Rabu, this 2,000-year-old artifact looks humble, a 5-inch vase containing a copper cylinder and an iron rod sealed with asphalt. But when German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig examined it, he saw something extraordinary: the components of a primitive galvanic cell capable of producing electricity. Known as the Baghdad Battery, this Parthian-era relic hints at an ancient understanding of energy storage that predates Alessandro Volta's official invention of the battery by nearly 2 millennia. Theories about its purpose range from the practical to the mystical. Some suggest these cells were used for electroplating, applying thin layers of gold or silver to objects, a technique known to Mesopotamian artisans. Experiments with replicas show that filling the jar with vinegar or grape juice could generate up to 2 volts of electricity, enough to gild small items. Others propose medical applications. Ancient Greek and Roman texts describe using electric fish to numb pain, raising the possibility that Parthian healers employed controlled shocks. Then there's the esoteric angle. Perhaps the batteries powered ritual objects, making statues glow or creating tingling sensations during religious ceremonies. The asphalt seal, resistant to evaporation, suggests these weren't one-off experiments but tools designed for repeated use. Skeptics argue the jars might have simply stored scrolls, with the iron rod acting as a rust-protected spindle. But Koenig's findings reveal traces of acidic corrosion, a telltale sign of electrochemical reactions. Even more compelling, multiple batteries were found, some wired in series, implying intentional voltage stacking. While we may never know their exact purpose, the Baghdad Battery challenges our assumptions about ancient technological sophistication. It's a reminder that innovation isn't always linear. Sometimes bright ideas flicker out, only to be rediscovered centuries later. The symbolism is irresistible. This clay jar, far older than the light bulb or the steam engine, represents humanity's timeless quest to harness invisible forces. Today's lithium-ion batteries, with their terawatt-scale grids and smartphone longevity, share the same DNA as that Parthian experiment, storing energy to bridge the gap between need and availability. The Baghdad Battery didn't just hold vinegar and metal, it held a spark of possibility, one that still lights our way forward. Some inventions don't fade into history, they wait patiently for the future to catch up. From the plow that tamed the wilderness to the compass that mapped the unknown, these 25 inventions prove one extraordinary truth: brilliance isn't measured by how new an idea is, but by how long it lasts. They're not just relics gathering dust in museums, they're the silent partners in your morning routine, the unsung heroes behind modern marvels, that coffee you drank today. Brewed with principles of chemistry first explored in ancient alembics, the roads you drove on, paved with engineering wisdom borrowed from Roman concrete. Even the screen you're watching right now traces its lineage back to innovations like paper and glass blowing, each one a link in an unbroken chain of human curiosity. What's truly humbling is realizing how little separates us from those ancient problem solvers. The same spark that drove a Mesopotamian farmer to bend wood into a plow still fuels Silicon Valley startups today. The only difference, they worked with bronze and gut instinct. We've got silicon chips and search engines, but the goals remain identical: to make life easier, safer, richer. That's the real magic here. These inventions aren't just things, they're conversations across time, whispered from one generation of tinkerers to the next. So here's your challenge: step outside and play history detective. Spot the echoes of antiquity hiding in plain sight. Notice how your umbrella's collapsible frame mirrors Han Dynasty designs, or how the arches in your local train station salute Roman engineering. And when you find your favorite ancient innovation, whether it's the abacus that taught us to calculate or the stirrup that reshaped warfare, drop it in the comments. Let's turn this into a living museum where we celebrate human ingenuity together. If unraveling these historical mysteries lights up your curiosity like an Alexandrian beacon, don't let the journey end here. Hit subscribe and join us as we keep digging into the past to understand our present, and maybe even glimpse the future. Because the most astonishing discovery isn't that these inventions survived millennia, it's that they're still shaping what comes next.